Hi. Let's just wait until a couple more people get in here. Oops. Mute that. Hi. So here we go. I'm gonna try to play one of my brand new songs, but I'm still learning it, so bear with me. That doesn't sound like the right chord. Just a second. Oh. Just a second. Because it was not the right chord. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna not be able to see my, I think it's called We Remember. I'm not gonna be able to see all the comments while I'm playing because I'm looking. Hey, G. Oh, sorry for the yawning. It's already started. Waiting for Pat. I'm not sure I get that one. Sorry. She's good. My twin is good. How are you? So. Oh. We belong? Is that a Pat Benatar reference? I remember starlight gazing at the infinite. Hey, dedicated mother. I'm doing well. I'm just playing a brand new song. So, I remember starlight gazing at the infinite, the fearful grandness of it all, so rare and loved and small in it, and you remember cold. I remember golden light, that everyone's a beauty in, warmth and close nostalgic scenes, and sparks against cerulean, and you remember snow. I stood before our history, feeling hands and laid the stones. With awe and joy we strive to be the breath inside the bones. You saw something that is a song that I just wrote. And yeah, I hope you liked it. Hey, Caleb. Looks like the oh, thank you for the celebration. Looks like there's going to be a little ad break. So actually that would be a perfect time for us to have, just even though we already sort of had an intermission so I could talk to my niece, I want to go warm up my tea or my hot water that has vanilla in it. So you take this moment to do the same, or get yourself a drink or a snack, or get all cozy, and we're going to have bedtime story reading in just a minute. Thank you. I'll be right back. I will be right back. Oh gosh. All right. Thank you for the bits. I'm cold. I'm cold, but I didn't bring my sweater. Actually, gonna sit in bed while I read to you a bedtime story. I think this is the first time this has happened. All right. Cold. Yes, I'm doing some Harry Potter reading tonight. Thank you. Last night's stream? What was last night's stream? First time since 2020 anyway. All right. Okay, so it's been a while. Okay. Okay, so for a moment she looked luminous. So we're on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Is book 5, chapter 20 or 31, page 721 at the very bottom. For a moment she looked luminous, illuminated by an eerie red glow, then was lifted right off her feet, landed hard on her back, and moved no more. Galloping gargoyles, shouted Professor Tofty, who seemed to have forgotten the exam completely. Not so much as a warning. Outrageous behavior. Cowards! Bellowed Hagrid, his voice carrying clearly to the top of the tower, and several lights flickered back on inside the castle. Ruddy cowards! Have some of that, and that! Oh my! Gasped Hermione. Hagrid took 2 massive swipes at his closest attackers. Judged by their immediate collapse, they had been knocked cold. Harry saw him double over and thought for a moment that he had finally been overcome by a spell, but on the contrary, next moment Hagrid was standing again with what appeared to be a sack on his back. Then Harry realized that Fang's limp body was draped around his shoulders. Get him! Get him! Screamed Umbridge, but her remaining helper seemed highly reluctant to go within reach of Hagrid's fists. Indeed, he was backing away so fast he tripped over one of his unconscious colleagues and fell over. Hagrid had turned and begun to run with Fang still hung around his neck. Umbridge sent one last stunning spell after him, but missed, and Hagrid, running full pelt toward the distant gates, disappeared into the darkness. There was a long minute's quivering silence, everybody gazing open-mouthed into the grounds. Then Professor Tofty's voice said feebly, 5 minutes to go, everybody. Though he had only filled in 2/3 of his chart, Harry was desperate for the end of the exam. When it came at last, he, Ron, and Hermione forced their telescopes haphazardly back into their holders and dashed back down the spiral staircase. None of the students were going to bed. They were all talking loudly and excitedly at the foot of the stairs about what they had witnessed. That evil woman, gasped Hermione, who seemed to be having difficulty talking due to rage, trying to sneak up on Hagrid in the dead of night. And just, so some of you were here, most of you, and I took a little break to talk to my niece, and I just want to tell you a little story of what she did. What am I seeing here? Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Finally figured out how to send stars. Thank you so much. Thank you for sending stars. Hey, Mel. Hey, Richard. Like the one I thought it could end up being one that you could only do if you had a piano, but like Build This House. Oh, I just need to learn Build This House on guitar. Yeah, I should do that. SG Sports Talk channel. Hi. Hey, thanks for coming in. I'm doing a little, usually, if anyone's new, I am a singer-songwriter. I'm usually singing and playing the guitar, but sometimes we do little Harry Potter bedtime story reading. So that's what's happening right now. And I was going to say about my niece, because I was telling little stories about her earlier and things that she says. So when I went to FaceTime with her, she was all excited. She was telling me about how she went to the pool. And she was very brave. And I asked her what she was brave about. And I said, did you do something extra specially brave? And she said, yes, I did. And I was like, oh, what was it? And she was like, it was walking. And it was just so adorable. And like my sister explained that it was, because she was walking on the bottom of the pool and kind of getting into, like, going deeper and deeper, and she actually got, like, water over her and on her face, but she doesn't, she's yet to, like, sort of want to put her face in the water, but she was, like, wanted to do it herself, and she was kept doing it, and even though she was scared, she wanted to keep doing it, so she was brave. All right, anyway, what are some music artists that inspired me? Brandi Carlile, Gregory Alan Isakov, Ray LaMontagne, David Gray, Damien Rice, Sarah Bareilles, Ingrid Michaelson, Taylor Swift, Hanson, Elton John, The Beatles, Queen. I could go on and on. Those are a bunch. Yeah, she was walking on water. Mm-hmm. Who's your current hero? Who to say but Pottermore's sorting hat placed me in Slytherin? Oh, Carrie. You know, but not all Slytherins are bad. They're not all. Thank you. You like my necklace? Okay, I'll keep reading. Hey, Frederick. Bobby, which is your current hero? Okay. She clearly wanted to avoid another scene like Trelawney's, said Ernie Macmillan sagely, squeezing over to join them. Hagrid did well, didn't he? Said Ron, who looked more alarmed than impressed. How come all the spells bounced off him? It'll be his giant blood, said Hermione shakily. It's very hard to stun a giant. They're like trolls, really tough. But poor Professor McGonagall. 4 stunners straight in the chest, and she's not exactly young, is she? Dreadful, dreadful, said Ernie, shaking his head pompously. Well, I'm off. Pompously? Well, I'm off to bed. Night all. People around them were drifting away, still talking excitedly about what they had just seen. At least they didn't get to take Hagrid off to Azkaban, said Ron. I expect he's gone to join Dumbledore, hasn't he? I suppose so, said Hermione, who looked tearful. Oh, this is awful. I really thought Dumbledore would be back before long, but now we've lost Hagrid too. They traipsed back to the Gryffindor common room to find it full. The commotion out in the grounds had woken several people who had hastened to rouse their friends. Seamus and Dean, who arrived ahead of Harry, Ron, and Hermione, were now telling everyone what they had heard from the top of the astronomy tower. But why sack Hagrid now? Asked Angelina Johnson, shaking her head. It's not like Trelawney. He's been teaching much better than usual this year. Umbridge hates part humans, said Hermione bitterly, flopping down into an armchair. She was always going to try and get Hagrid out. And she thought Hagrid was putting nifflers in her office, piped up Katie Bell. Oh, blimey, said Lee Jordan, covering his mouth. It's me's been putting the nifflers in her office. Fred and George left me a couple. I've been levitating them in through the window. She'll have sacked him anyway, said Dean. He was too close to Dumbledore. That's true, said Harry, sinking into an armchair beside Hermione's. I just hope Professor McGonagall's all right, said Lavender tearfully. They carried her back up to the castle. We watched through the dormitory window, said Colin Creevey. She didn't look very well. Madame Pomfrey will sort her out, said Alicia Spinnet firmly. She's never failed yet. It was nearly 4 a.m. before the common room cleared. Harry felt wide awake. The image of Hagrid sprinting away into the dark was haunting him. He was so angry with Umbridge he could not think of a punishment bad enough for her, though Ron's suggestion of having her fed to a box of starving, blast-ended Scrooge had its merits. He fell asleep contemplating hideous revenges and arose from bed 3 hours later, feeling distinctly unrested. Their final exam, History of Magic, was not to take place until that afternoon. Harry would very much have liked to go back to bed after breakfast, but he had been counting on the morning for a spot of last-minute studying, so instead he sat with his head in his hands by the common room window, trying hard not to doze off as he read through some of the notes, stacked 3.5 feet high, that Hermione had lent him. The 5th years entered the Great Hall at 2 o'clock, took their places in front of their overturned examination papers. Harry felt exhausted. He just wanted this to be over so that he could go and sleep. Then tomorrow, he and Ron were going to go down to the Quidditch pitch. He was going to have a fly in Ron's broom and savor their freedom from studying. "Turn over your papers," said Professor Marchbanks from the front of the hall, flicking over the giant hourglass. "You may begin." Harry stared fixedly at the first question. Oh. Oh. You were saying your current hero is my niece. Okay. I get it now. Harry stared fixedly at the first question. It was several seconds before it occurred to him that he had not taken in a word of it. There was a wasp buzzing distractedly against one of the high windows. Slowly, tortuously, he began to write an answer. He was finding it very difficult to remember names and kept confusing dates. He simply skipped question 4. In your opinion, did wand legislation contribute to or lead to better control of goblin riots of the 18th century? Thinking that he would go back to it if he had time at the end. He had a stab at question 5. How was the statute of secrecy breached in 1749, and what measures were introduced to prevent a recurrence? But had a nagging suspicion that he had missed several important points. He had a feeling vampires had come into the story somewhere. He looked ahead for a question he could definitely answer, and his eyes alighted upon number 10. Describe the circumstances that led to the formation of the International Confederation of Wizards, and explain why the warlocks of Liechtenstein refused to join. I know this, Harry thought, though his brain felt torpid and slack. He could visualize a heading in Hermione's handwriting, the formation of the International Confederation of Wizards. He had read these notes only this morning. He began to write, looking up now and again to check the large hourglass on the desk beside Professor Marchbanks. My daughter is Ravenclaw, my granddaughter is Gryffindor, but we have a civil house, so that's good. You all can sit in the common room together. He was sitting right behind Parvati Patil, whose long dark hair fell below the back of her chair. Once or twice he found himself staring at the tiny golden lights that glistened in it when she moved her head very slightly, and had to give his own head a little shake to clear it. The first supreme mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards was Pierre Bonaccord, but his appointment was contested by the wizarding community of Liechtenstein, because all around Harry quills were scratching on parchment like scurrying, burrowing rats. Wow. The sun was very hot on the back of his head. What was it that Bonaccord had done to offend the wizards of Liechtenstein? Harry had a feeling it had something to do with trolls. He gazed blankly at the back of Parvati's head again. If he could only perform legilimency and open a window in the back of her head and see what it was about trolls that had caused the breach between Pierre Bonaccord and Liechtenstein. Harry closed his eyes and buried his face in his hands so that the glowing red of his eyelids grew dark and cool. Bonaccord had wanted to stop troll hunting and give the trolls rights. But Liechtenstein was having problems with a tribe of particularly vicious mountain trolls. That was it. He opened his eyes. They stung and watered at the sight of the blazing white parchment. Slowly he wrote 2 lines about the trolls, then read through what he had done so far. It did not seem very informative or detailed, yet he was sure Hermione's notes on the Confederation had gone on for pages and pages. He closed his eyes again, trying to see them, trying to remember. The Confederation had met for the first time in France. Yes, he had written that already. Goblins had tried to attend and been ousted. He had written that too. And nobody from Liechtenstein had wanted to come. Think, he told himself, his face in his hands, while all around him quills scratched out never-ending answers, and the sand trickled through the hourglass at the front. He was walking along the cool, dark corridor to the Department of Mysteries again, walking with a firm and purposeful tread, breaking occasionally into a run, determined to reach his destination at last. The black door swung open for him, as usual, and here he was, in the circular room with its many doors. Straight across the stone floor, and through the second door. Patches of light dancing on the walls and floor, and that odd mechanical clicking. But no time to explore. Harry must hurry. He jogged the last few feet to the third door, which swung open just like the others. Once again, he was in the cathedral-sized room full of shelves and glass spheres. His heart was beating very fast now. He was going to get there this time. When he reached number 97, he turned left and hurried along the aisle between 2 rows. But there was a shape on the floor at the very end, a black shape, moving upon the floor like a wounded animal. Harry's stomach contracted with fear, with excitement. A voice issued from his own mouth, a high, cold voice, empty of any human kindness. Take it for me. Lift it down now. I cannot touch it, but you can. Sorry. Oh, hell, Hermione, the smartest witch. Yeah. The black shape upon the floor shifted a little. Harry saw a long-fingered white hand clutching a wand rise on the end of his own arm. Heard the high, cold voice say, Crucio! The man on the floor let out a scream of pain, attempted to stand, but fell back, writhing. Harry was laughing. He raised his wand, the curse lifted, and the figure groaned and became motionless. Voldemort is waiting. Oh, sorry. Lord Voldemort is waiting. Very slowly, his arms trembling, the man on the ground raised his shoulders a few inches and lifted his head. His face was blood-stained and gaunt, twisted in pain yet rigid with defiance. You'll have to kill me, whispered Sirius. Undoubtedly I shall in the end, said the cold voice, but you will fetch it for me first, Black. You think you have felt pain thus far? Think again. We have hours ahead of us and nobody to hear you scream. But somebody screamed, as Voldemort lowered his wand again. Somebody yelled and fell sideways off a hot desk onto the cold stone floor. Harry hit the ground and awoke, still yelling, his scar on fire, as the great hall erupted all around him. That's the end of the chapter. So, we shall continue. Oh, maybe tomorrow. I think I could do tomorrow, but the next few days after that they'll be hard to do reading because I will be driving nonstop. Actually, I could maybe do some reading the next day if it was during the day, but that night after my show, I'll probably just go straight to bed because I have to get up really early and drive forever. Wow, that no one's scored yet. Good night, Trev. Good night, David. Good night, Bill. Good night, Will. Good night, Alan. Good night, everybody. I'll see you again soon. Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to get some good sleep. Thank you all so much for your support. Don't forget to join the community if you haven't yet. go.chrissyangeliss.com/join-community. Oh yeah, and I'll do a little raid. I'm going to end on Instagram. I'll see you tomorrow. And yes, thanks for that reminder. Who should we do? What about the peace thing? If you don't have a specific person you want me to raid, show it. Then I'll just pick someone. Should I do Billy Wilkins official? That was one of the recommended channels. I think I'll do that.